Hey, everybody. Welcome to your, Joel usually says favorite weekly series, but considering that we are joined today by the co-host and host of two far more popular series on the Sisters Interview Networks, that is a fair bit of hubris on Joel's part, but that's okay. He's not here to defend himself. This is Grace Under Pressure, where we feature royal consorts from around the known world. This week is Duchess Patricia Blackthorn, because it's only spelled Blake, but it's pronounced Black, of the West Kingdom. And next week is Ingrid Rifkin of the Outlands. I'm assuming she pronounces the second part of her name Rifkin, like Sir Rifkin does, but she can correct me if that is not correct. We just call her Phoebe, so for what it's worth. This is the time when usually I introduce Joel, but instead I'm going to introduce my stunt co-host for the day, Ashaxi, who is my very dear friend, patient friend, loving friend, and one of my oldest SCA friends, mostly because I don't like very many people, and so she's stayed with me the longest. And it is wonderful to have you here today, standing in for Joel, who had a sudden work thing come up, but he's not here for us to make fun of his White Claw, which is really sad. Neither of you are drinking White Claw, I take it, so that'll just have to be, we'll just have to save that for when he's back. So welcome, Ashaxi. Ashaxi is a Laurel of Ontier and an all-around fabulous person, and thank you for standing in.
Our normal co-host for Grace Under Pressure is one of my best friends. Her name says Carolyn, but she's Duchess Dagmar. We should change your name.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, go ahead.
And she's one of those people that can always make me laugh, even when I'm having one of the most serious of days. And that's been one of her special powers from the beginning. And it's why our friendship has lasted for well over 20 years.
Oh,
I love you, and I'm very thankful you're in my life.
This is just going to be a big sob fest, apparently. Patricia, you don't mind. We're just going to talk about how much we love each other.
As long as you're fine with me crying in the corner, we're fine.
Okay.
I'm a crier. So that's going to happen today, probably, the minute I talk about anything I'm passionate about. So
perfect.
Already, too. So it'll just be a big mushy mess, which is awesome. That's how we like it.
Well, for more mushy messiness, you have to say that very carefully. A special thank you, as always, to Rifkin and Ashaxi for hosting Grace Under Pressure on the Sisters Interview Network. We really appreciate the effort, labor, and thoughtfulness that you put into making this happen. So thank you, Ashaxi. And would you please introduce our wonderful guest?
Tonight we have Duchess Patricia Blackthorn. She has reigned once as Princess of the Mists and thrice as Queen of the West. Welcome, and we're so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm super honored to be asked.
Yay! We usually like to start these off with asking what your SCA origin story is. How did you find the SCA, and what made you fall in love with it?
This is an epic story.
We have time. We have lots of time.
So I had friends who were in the SCA for years and years and years, and occasionally they'd try to get me to go to an event, but I never wanted to show up like the shabby, not cool kid without the nice clothes. And I was just like, oh, maybe, but and eventually I was hanging out with those friends, and a man I'd never met was at their house. That was Mark. We pretty much hit it off immediately. We dated for about 10 months. And in that entire time, he was taking me to SCA practices, but he didn't really want to take me to an SCA event until he was sure that we were going to work out, because he didn't want to put me through that, because he was already a Viscount and a knight, and had a little bit of notoriety. So he was, patiently waiting. And finally, he was getting to the point where he was considering fighting in Crown for the first time. And he thought that the best way to get ready for that was to fight in Mist Coronet. So he asked if it was okay if he fought for me. and took me to my very first event. I was literally wearing a sideless coat I made myself out of curtains. And he won the tournament.
Yay!
I got thrown into the deep end really fast, and yeah, nothing quite so magical as here's your lovely flower hat. Welcome to the SCA. That is literally what he said when he put the hat on my head. Was well, so welcome to the SCA.
You're a princess now.
So yeah, my first year was pretty intense because I was in the spotlight, and I loved it. It was amazing how immediately I felt at home because I'm a little socially awkward. I'm very shy, just a little bit of a weirdo, and I've never really fit into a place very easily. The SCA, I was at home immediately. Like people made me feel supported. Everywhere I went, I felt like I had friends almost immediately. The best friend I've ever had in my life, I made within the first few weeks in the SCA because she was at the time with Duke Quebec. So she was also in the Deep Enders Club, and she was also very, very new. So me and Mina just kind of like glomped each other like, oh God, what are we doing? So yeah, I fell in love pretty hard and fast. And at the time, I was dealing with the fact that my grandmother who had raised me was dying. So I had to take care of her all during the week. And during the weekend, I got to go be a princess. So it was just this perfect 6 months of just, you get this thing that's great, that's a comfort. And then my grandmother passed away the week after I stepped down. So it was like I had this perfect thing I needed for comfort. And then when it was time for it to be done, it was perfectly done. And I could move on with dealing with the act of, settling that situation. So it was just like this amazing gift. See, choked up already.
Wow, what an amazing first chapter in your SCA life.
Oh, so yeah. And brains are kind of a relationship accelerator. Whatever your relationship is going to be, it will be faster. And so it pretty much bonded me and my now husband really, really quickly. Like the act of, needing to, because we're both introverts and we're both shy. And so we had to kind of support each other through this whole amazing experience. So yeah, it just bonded us way faster, way deeper, way quicker. It's like, you for the rest of my life.
It's a
I
thing.
love that.
That's wonderful.
I love the idea of you also in a place like the Mists that's so steeped in custom and tradition and, old school SCA culture, and you coming in with literally no experience with it and being like, surprise. That's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, it was pretty perfect.
If you
go ahead.
If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice before that first event, what would it be?
I would probably just tell myself that I was going to do okay and not to be as scared, because that was one of the biggest stresses for me, was that my husband had an established reputation in the SCA and he had taken a really big chance in fighting for me, and so it was just, I couldn't let him down. So I had that, I have to do this right because I have to, I have to carry his honor because he carried mine. And so, don't worry, you're going to be okay at this.
I love that idea that he was taking a big chance by fighting for you, when I'm sure he was like, okay, don't break up with me. Don't break up with me. Don't break up with me. Please don't break up with me. Please like this. Please be okay with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all have our own versions of risk averse. So, that's really funny. And you're not the only person we know that kind of ended up reigning really soon after their first contact with the SCA. It does make me think about, those early experiences though, like what would you go back and do over? What would you, okay, let me give you an example. I wasn't new to the SCA, but I was new to Sinagua when a friend of Ob's came up to me and said, hey, we just wanted to let you know that all of Thistletor will be there for you when you reign as Princess of Sinagua. And I was like, oh, is that your household? And he said, no, that's the shire you live in. I was like, oh, I had been in the SCA for a while at that point, but I hadn't lived in Sinagua for very long, but I was still like, oh, okay, I should figure out where I live, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to be princess, So I don't know. I like that memory because to me, it's a funny thing. It's like, yeah, that's right. You can, no matter how much experience you have, you can still kind of put your foot in it. So
Did the people around you set up anything like a crash course in learning about the SCA or anything like that?
Not entirely. The princess who stepped down just as I stepped up was super helpful. And that's Gillian. She had a conversation with Mark the next day after we won, where and if you know Gillian, she's sunshine and light. She's just the sweetest, nicest, most wonderful person. And she came up to him and she's like, you did describe to her what she was getting into, right? You didn't just have her come to this event to do this fun thing with me, because that would be unkind. She's like, no, she knew what she was getting into. I talked about the SCA for months.
We have a friend who became queen kind of at her first event, and when she stepped up as queen, people set up a what's it called, a scavenger hunt for her. She had to go to all of the different baronies at Crown and like answer all these questions, and
oh my god, I would die.
I'm not sure I could do that now, to be honest.
I can do it now.
I'd be like, I don't know.
I have problems remembering people who I love dearly's names because Facebook, and like, you want me to remember locations that are made up? No.
Well, you're just a scooch younger than us, so you didn't also probably go through the live journal days. So the problem that we now have is that we also have people's live journal names and identities mixed in with everything else. And there are times I look at somebody and I'm like, I'm sorry. I think I've known you through too many iterations and I've reached some kind of critical failure to whatever. I'm like, you smell fine. That's all I need. That's all I care about. You smell okay.
I was on the tail end of live journal. I had friends who were into it, but I am a little bit technologically impaired. So like,
live journal was great for that, actually, so it was very friendly for those of us who are like, I don't want to learn another thing. I've used every version of Windows since DOS, like I've learned enough stuff. I don't want to learn anything else, but I do miss it sometimes because it was so much more secure. And the ESCA, as we know it, is largely on Facebook, and it is a little worrisome that we have everything on this one platform, right? But that's the other thing too, is that you reigned right on the cusp of when a lot of that stuff was happening. Yeah. And so people weren't initially online the way they are now. Yeah. Even in 2010, there were still a lot of people who weren't on Facebook. We were still doing a lot of things on our peerages over email at that point in time.
Yeah, I remember being on the Yahoo Roses list, which has finally stopped.
Yep.
Yahoo groups and stuff like that when we started, and then it's just like we're it's all on Facebook now.
That's right. I was on some of those Yahoo groups too, and there was a point where I just kind of wandered away. I just never opened my Yahoo again. I was like, I think I'm done. I don't want to read any more of any of this. Yeah. So I thought I would go ahead and queue up the photos, but as I'm doing that, maybe you could answer another question, which is, how did your reign as princess prepare you for your time as queen, do you think?
It was a godsend, because as princess, you are more the a figurehead. Like, you get all of the fun, the giving awards. You get used to being in front of people, doing court, all of that stuff, without the weight of having to banish people, or having to deal with the actual laws and infrastructure of the SCA. You are more the figurehead, less the actual head. So, and it was in a much smaller environment, so it was a lot less stressful, and it was longer, so I got more practice doing it. I was super, super glad that I got to be princess first. It was just thanks, fate.
It's interesting because not every kingdom has a principality in their kind of downtown kingdom, so downtown West is really where the population centers are. There's two principalities that are very active, and you do get to have that as a bit of a proving ground, both to create leaders, but also to allow people to kind of step up levels of responsibility as retinue or officers or whatever. And in Ontir, we don't have that. We have principalities, but they were created on the perimeter of the central kingdom, which is no longer the case. Tiri is no longer, that they have a huge population core there and generate a lot of royalty. But the idea when they were created, these principalities were out on the geographic edges. And now, it's really different because Tiri has that, they have that strong core principality identity, and then everything south to the summits doesn't. And you do see a difference in how people relate to each other. So I think it's quite unusual what the West has in that regard.
We do have some of those, like Sinagua. This has changed a little bit, but when I first started, a lot of the kings and queens came from the Mists.
Right.
So Sinagua treated their royalty a little bit differently. Yeah. And because we have Owertha, which is all the way up in Alaska, we also have those outlier groups that need their prince and princess to be stronger leaders for that very reason.
Yeah,
that's their people, and they see the crown once in a blue moon.
Very seldom, right? Yeah. So, well, here we have you and Mark, and it looks like, if I had to guess, that's the dress you made out of curtains. However, it's quite charming. So you have nothing to be ashamed of. We all had our first outfits, and that looks really cute.
That's way, way better than my first outfit.
Sadly, like, I threw it in the wash once and the fabric shredded because it was synthetic, but I still have it because that was my cute little sideless surcoat that I found a pattern for on the internet. And my friends gave me some trim that looked vaguely medieval, and I was like, I'm gonna make a thing.
There you go. Looks great. So this was your first event.
Yes, this is you can tell from the mild nervous terror on my face.
And Mark gripping, or sorry, I'll call him Mark, gripping your hand like a vice. Like, yes. Nope, you can't run away. Nope, come on, you gotta do this.
To be fair, I didn't want to run away. I was just very, very scared because everyone was looking at me, and I knew 4 people. So.
That's really funny. By the way, he's in the comments and he said you look really pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that. Okay, well, let's take a look. Oh, look at that. What's happening here, I wonder?
So yeah, that was my reaction to Mark just won the tournament. So yeah, little surprised there. There were just a whole bunch of pictures from this event where I'm just like, oh my.
I love it. Who's with you supporting you?
The woman next to me in the beautiful Elizabethans is Princess Gillian. So this is the one who pointed out that, you know, not letting me know what the SAA was would be unkind. And the other person is Darrelay, who was someone I knew before I joined the SCA.
I love it.
Is the wife of Mark's squire Fred. So this picture is the first time that the crown of the West was put on my head. Just, that was one of those amazingly powerful moments of just like, wow. Because by then I got what a big deal that was. Even though at this point in time, I'd been in the SCA for a year and a couple of months. Because we went to, after we stepped down, we went to 12th Night and we went to Estrella. And then a bunch of foreign dukes were fighting in our list, or at least they were, it was rumored that some foreign dukes were going to fight. Duke Sean fought in the crown list that we won. And Mark had never fought in a crown before. And he had a friend say, you know, it is your responsibility to make sure that a foreign duke does not win our crown. You have to, you know, fight to protect the kingdom from that. And so he kind of was like, fine. And so the third event after stepping down as princess, I was princess again. So yeah, it was his first crown tournament ever, and he won. And it was just the most epic thing, because at least with the principality reign, he'd fought off weapons form. He wasn't expecting to win. This one, he fought his main weapon, but it was in the middle of an insane rainstorm, like sideways rain. By the time we got off the field, I had mud up to here. Wow. And it was just, he had his squire taking paper towels and drying off his rattan sword in between rounds because it was affecting how shots were hitting. Like rattan was getting waterlogged. It was raining that hard.
Wow.
And just, there are people who had pavilions ruined at this event. Like the pavilion was never the same again.
Right.
The favor I gave Mark fell into the mud, and like it never got clean again. You know what? That's part of its history, and that just makes it more special. But like that is how just hard won it was, and it was something that like in his head it was what the gods did. The gods won crown. He didn't win crown.
That's so funny.
So literally we are driving up to the step up location, which is a sheep's ranch, and it's just rolling hills. There's no buildings around, super close. It's one of our prettiest sites. So like it was really easy to get into the mindset of a medieval event. It was beautiful, it was perfect, and just like this powerful moment of, wow, I'm gonna be in charge, I'm gonna be queen. And this object was being put on my head that has been worn by so many queens before me for, I forget how old it was at the time. Like our old crowns they're magical. Like they're so heavy and they're so beautiful, and you put them on your head and you're just like, oh, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like the weight instantaneously reminds you of the responsibility, and they're just beautiful.
Yeah.
You really are.
So this is us both crying on the field after he won. You can tell how gray it is and how wet we are. But yeah, he won. The Rorik called good on the final blow, and he fell down on his knees and started crying.
Aw.
And I wanted to run up to him, but his knight had who'd been training him for a long time, and this was a very big moment for him. He went up and started talking to him, and I'm just like,
dude. Dude.
I love you, please get out of the way. Please move. I move. My boyfriend just won crown, move.
It's really funny.
In on tier, they pick the victor up and run him around on their shoulders around Eric. And I always kind of feel for the consort, because the consort just has to sit there and
thank Frank they don't do the same to her.
oh, sometimes they do.
No. I would kick people in the face before I would let that happen.
Yeah, it turns out some people have personal space issues. They're just they're not okay with.
Well, it's probably more correct to say some people don't have personal space issues. Everybody else does. Like it's kind of a given more than anything else. I mean, so anyway, this is a beautiful photo also.
This was the second tournament that Mark won. This one was actually, the tournament was held at the Sheep's Ranch, so you can kind of get the idea of the blue skies and the green trees.
Yeah.
And taken by Esmeralda of the Lakes.
Yes, I love that her mark is on there. Whenever I see people's marks on photos, I try not to edit them out of the frame if I have to adjust the size. So, but she is a prolific photographer of West events, so it's very cool.
So I'm also a fighting queen. I'm not a good fighter, but I like to get on the field. So this was a picture taken at Great Western War, where we were talking to the troops after the fighting in our matching surcoats, being kissy face because we're gross.
Not gross. It's adorable. I love that. There's Brand down front. Looking very Brand-like.
So this is one of those really highlight of reigns ever photos. One of the best things about being able to reign is that you get to give out awards.
Yeah.
And in the West, we have a particularly powerful award, the Hero of the West. It means so much to the fighting community, and it is such a big deal. And the litany in the award ceremony is amazing. I wish I had it queued up to read because it's fabulous. But it's just the end all and be all of fighting awards. And it was our second reign, and Matthias was our banner bearer. Not getting out through this without crying.
Nope.
So Matthias was currently doing chemo. And we didn't really realize this when we asked. So he actually had chemo the day before he was supposed to be there. And he missed one of the days of war, and he showed up and he apologized. Like, I'm really sorry. It's just this particular chemo hit me harder. And we're just like,
dude,
what? You're here? And he fought the entire day once he got there, and was just, Duke Matthias, just an amazing fighter, an amazing warrior. And we also didn't realize at the time that he still had a shunt in. So at the end of the day, we're like, this man is a hero and we need to recognize him. And Mark, I wish I could recreate his speech. The things he said were just beautiful. Like, my husband knows how to give just the most inspiring speeches you will ever hear. Like, just, whew, I love them. So you will notice that there's not a dry eye in the house as we were giving him this award, which was so well deserved. So yeah. miss that guy a lot.
Oh. Carolyn, are you muted?
You guys can't even hear me. I'm here like holding forth about Matt and, these special moments in the SCA. Nobody needs to hear it because I am crying anyway. So we'll just leave it alone.
We
But
thought we were having an awkward silence.
that's funny. I do see that Ulf is there though. So Ontario was represented, and that's kind of lovely too in its own way. So that's kind of cool. Well, I'm glad you included this photo. That's very cool.
It is the favorite award we ever got to give.
Yeah.
So this is one of those really cool, amazing photos. So when we first were king and queen, it turns out that one of our baronies had not gotten a visit in forever, like probably a decade. And that's the Far West. So the baron at the time tried really hard, and the exchequer and everyone who was in charge at the time were like, this would be a really amazing thing if you guys could go and visit the barony of the Far West. So we ended up going to Okinawa. So that is a picture that was taken while we were taking a break and walking towards the ocean to enjoy the cool air. The event happened on an American military base in Okinawa. And it's one of those iconic, just, it looks so perfectly medieval, and it's crazy we're in Japan. But yeah, so that was one of those really amazing trips. And we had just left Pennsic, and I'm a California girl. I'm from the OC. I'm from Orange County. So like even up here in the Bay Area is like, that's a little different for me, but I'm used to like dry weather. We went to Pennsic, and I got off the plane and I'm like, I feel almost like I cannot breathe. It is so moist here. I don't know how I'm gonna survive this. Yeah. And we managed to get through Pennsic. We were home for 2 days. Then we got on a plane and flew to Okinawa. We got off the plane to Okinawa and went, oh, Pennsic was nothing. It was 98 degrees with insanely high humidity. It was so bad that when they held a tournament for us, they created an event for us to go to and held a tournament. And one of the Japanese nationals almost went down from heat exhaustion. And there were military personnel walking by like, it's a Black Flag Day for us. We can't do PT today. What are you doing? You guys are insane. Armor? What?
It's really funny. Yeah, I think, was that the same Pennsic where we were there as queen, when I was there as queen? It might have been at the same time.
Maybe. Yes, because I met you when you were crown princess at my second weapon.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is that was a very muggy, very humid Pennsic, and I know that they get rain and lightning storms there, but people were commenting that it was a particularly muggy event, and we had power in our camp. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that managed to happen, but we had a box fan, and I felt like the most indulgent, pretty princess on the entire site that we got to actually have a fan. I mean, really all it did was just move sluggish, warm air around, but it was better than nothing.
Even
let me tell you,
air moving is better than just that I didn't understand it's fine, it's a dry heat, until I went to Pennsic and experienced a wet heat, and then went to Okinawa and experienced. Yep. I'm not sure how people live there. Like, yeah, so bad.
That's right. Apparently they have different colored flags depending on how dangerous it is. So, well, oops, sorry, there we go.
So this actually, as it turned out, happened 7 years ago today.
Oh,
my friend just shared the video she got of it. So this is Mark proposing to me. He did it at a missed coronet that was being held at the same site where our first Miss Coronet happened that he won for me. So he on a week beforehand, he was talking to his Zen teacher and discussing like relationships and stuff, and it just suddenly hit him that like even the bad days with me were just pretty amazing, and just suddenly decided, you know what, I'm an idiot, I should marry this girl. And then realized he had a plan for proposing to me, and you know, at one point he told me that and was like, you know, you may never know what that plan is, because he had always told me that he'd had some really, really bad experiences with long-term relationships going bad, and so he felt like he was never going to get married, never going to be able to do that, because his window for that to happen had closed. It always opened with me about it, and I was like, you know what, that's fine. I would love to marry you, but I will spend the rest of my life with you regardless, because you're the one. And he hit this point where he was like, this is dumb, I'm gonna marry her. So he went and picked up a ring and proposed to me the next weekend, because that was when the anniversary event was happening, and it was happening at the same location. So he and he was being a little weird during the week, so I was like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm starting to get a little, is there a thing happening? Like, I just, he was curious about what I was going to wear to the event, which, let me tell you, he doesn't care. He has never cared what I wore to an event ever, except, do you feel pretty? Do you like what you're wearing? That's awesome. And suddenly he was like, let's wear something matching. And like I saw him like fiddling with one of my rings. I'm like, that's suspicious. And so starting to realize that he was starting to tip his hand. But the night before, we were lying in bed, and he was just like, you know, I feel really bad, because I feel like I'm never going to be ready to get married, and I know that's something that's really important to you, and just giving me this load of just utter crud, because he was trying to throw me off the set so that I would be surprised. And like, I'm sitting there like, of course, you know, it doesn't matter to me, I love you again, I will be with you, I don't need to be married, I'd love it, but if it never happens, that's totally fine. And then, of course, I go to my best friend, Mina, that morning, and like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. He's behaving so weird. I thought he might actually be going to propose to me. And then he says this last night, and she's like, oh my God. And just, she already knew. She knew. And she just goes off on, oh, men are so frustrating. Like, he was sending her pictures of the ring. You think this is too big? Like, to which her response was, have you met her? It's not too big. But yeah, so they everyone had conspired against me, and she just like kept a straight face and like, oh, I'm so annoyed with him for this thing, and just whoosh right over my head. And he went up into court to talk about a group he was starting, which was what his excuse was. And then he was like, but I'm not going to talk about that today. And then went off, and you can actually find it. I'm tagged in it, and it's been shared on my Facebook profile today. And someone, our friend Sylvie, actually recorded the entire thing, because everybody knew but me. Which is why some of our Sonogwin friends, Fergus and Sylvie, were at a missed event, because they knew he was going to propose. And
everybody but you, and maybe that kid standing behind you in the blue tunic. He probably didn't know, but everybody else there knew.
Pretty much. So yeah, it was actually Mark's knight didn't know. He encouraged Mark's knight to show up, but didn't tell him why because he knew that he would spoil the secret.
Oh.
Everybody else knew.
Funny. That's so funny. I
And
love it. It's a
Yeah.
great picture too.
Yeah. He actually had someone light sparklers and run around us, which was a reference to Scrubs after I said yes. Just layer the nerd levels in there because, you know.
Well, we're gonna get to your nerddom in a little bit here.
So this is an amazing thing that happened. So speaking of those personal space issues that can come up in the SEA, the duchy ceremony in the West, the man gets dubbed a duke, and the woman gets kissed a duchess. It's, you know, very traditional. You can opt out of getting kissed, but at the time, Violante didn't know the difference. Maybe I never actually asked her about it, and just sent a runner and asked, "Would you like to be kissed or would you like to be dubbed?" And I was like, dubbing is an option? I would like to be dubbed a duchess. Like, that can happen? Oh my goodness. Like, I don't want to be, like, I love Thorfinn. He's one of my favorite people in the world. I don't want him kissing me. That's weird and awkward. Just love that guy. No. I wouldn't want, no. Is he Mark? No kissy. So I ended up getting dubbed a duchess, which had never happened in the West before. And like, just the coolest experience ever. Because I'm not passionate about fighting. I fight as a hobby, but there's something so medieval about a dubbing, and to get to experience that, it was so cool and so amazing. And then usually the other part where our ceremony deviated is usually the king puts the coronet onto the man's head, and then the man puts the coronet onto the duchess's head. So instead, Mark had actually requested that I be the one to put the ducal coronet on him, because he felt like that was something that wouldn't have happened without me. So it was really important to him that I be the one to do it. So we had this very romantic and very different ducal ceremony that was just so magical and cool.
Wow.
So this is another one of those amazing travel things I got to do. So because Owertha is one of the principalities that is part of the West, at one point during our third reign, we went to a coronet, and it was right next to a frozen lake. And I am, again, a Southern California girl. This is the first time I'd ever seen a frozen lake in person. And so that is me spinning around and dancing in the kingdom cloak on a frozen lake, having this magical moment of just, I'm in Alaska on a frozen lake and I'm a queen, and this is a fairy tale. What is my life?
I'm imagining you singing Let It Go.
No, I think this was pre that movie. If that movie like had been out, that is 100% what would have been happening. Because that is my frozen moment right there.
It's awesome.
Although, to be fair, I'm Anna, not Elsa. Awkward,
Yeah.
a little weird.
Yay.
I'm probably Olaf.
Love Olaf.
Yeah, that's probably more me, or the reindeer. I might
I
be
was
the
gonna say,
reindeer.
I'm the reindeer.
Okay, you can be the reindeer. I'll be the awkward snow human thing.
So this is our household. So yeah, this is Mark and all of his squires, and some of his former squires, because Sir Eva is, you know, a knight, and Felix technically is the significant other of a squire, but he counts. He's household. He can't get away from us.
That's great. Is this in the West?
Yeah, this is actually at West Frontier War, which is one of our favorite wars to go to. So we brought our Australians and Logan, who we technically met at a Penzic, and Fred, who is originally from Scotland. We have a very eclectic household.
Awesome.
That's great. Oh, that's the last slide. That's a great thing to end on. This is what we all miss about the SCA the most. So
much. I have to plug in my laptop.
Okay.
You know that thing where we were worried about a laptop dying? It's mine.
That's great. Well, we can talk while she's wandered off about the gorgeous cat that's right behind her. Oh, and she's back. We were talking about your cat while you were gone.
This is Crowley. He's been hiding behind me this entire time.
Oh, that's hilarious that his name is Crowley. So those of you who are watching who don't know Patricia may not know that she is a super huge Supernatural fan, though we can talk about the last 2 seasons, but we probably don't have to, do we? Can we just pretend?
I'm gonna acknowledge the fact that I have not watched the last 2 seasons.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I just,
it kind of crescendoed and sort of dropped off real fast.
It was one of those shows where the first 5 years were amazing, loved them, and then it kept going, and it was, and then it got good again, and I was like, yay, I'm enjoying this, and then it got bad again.
Yeah.
It got good again, and then it got bad again.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 seasons,
it just got bad.
Has died twice in one season. Just, guys.
Yeah.
This is not amazing.
I get tired of them saying each other's names in really angry ways and storming off. I'm like, how did women get the reputation for being super emotional? And then you watch, because you watch a show like that and you're like, yeah, guys are kind of like this. And why do we get all the heat for being emotional?
Actually accurate. As it turns out, humans are real emotional.
Weird. I know. But they're still pretty. And I did, you were the one who pointed out that in the syndicated reruns that they had stopped playing a lot of the original 70s rock because of licensing issues or something. And I am pleased to say that the last time I watched some of the early seasons again on Netflix, the original rock was still intact.
Which is really good. I watched the first season on Netflix, and like I have it all on DVD, and
right.
I watched those first 5 seasons so many times. It's probably unhealthy, but so I was like, that doesn't sound, what's off here? And then they would hit like a song that I actually really knew, and I was like, that's supposed to be Inagata DeVita. What are you doing?
Right.
And I got to like the end of season 1, and they had just some random weird rock song, and I'm just like,
no,
that's not Bad Moon Rising.
No, it's not okay. And this is the thing, like, I realize this is completely off topic, but it's important to have standards, folks. And if your show literally has as almost another character on the show a bunch of really good 70s rock, that good being relative to whether or not you like 70s rock. But if you have that as almost like its own character, and then you take that character away without explaining why that character has suddenly died and that you've replaced it with bad derivative non-70s rock,
just
weird. That's not okay.
Did they just not want to pay the royalties?
I mean, I don't know.
It happens a lot. It happened. Yeah. That's the reason that I knew it was a thing, is apparently they did it to Daria, because when that show was originally being aired, a lot of that music wasn't famous or popular yet. And then like they had it for a certain amount of time. And then when they redistributed it, they didn't want to have to pay all of the money that music was now worth, because it was really popular music that had become very successful. So they just stripped all of the good music out of it and, put whatever in. And they've done it also with Scrubs. If it's a really important song, they won't change it. But like we're rewatching it on Amazon, and some of the music is just off. And some of it's right. Sometimes they'll keep the original song. When it's super important, they'll pay the money for it. But yeah, it's really weird. And like with the Supernatural, they start the scene at the end of season 1 with this weird song, and then they end it, and it flips to the next episode as it just continues playing, and suddenly the real music is back, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this feels like a breath of fresh air, but your music isn't matching anymore.
Yeah, you feel a little dirty. You feel a little dirty watching it. So I think some of that's been resolved, or at least the stuff I was watching, the music was intact. And again, it's important, folks, to have standards, whether it's in the SCA or not. You just need to know where your line is, and my line is, I don't want to listen to Supernatural without the original soundtrack, and that's okay.
So important. Like it's the fabric of the show. You can't have Supernatural without amazing classic rock. That's
right.
It's like taking the car out.
Yeah, that would be weird. Imagine if suddenly you were like, we passed a law that all cars on TV shows have to be energy efficient vehicles, and so they had to start photoshopping in like electric vehicles and stuff into all of these shows. That
no.
I can't believe I even said it out loud, and I've said that, I've let that thought into the universe that now that could happen.
Me and my energy efficient vehicle are offended by the idea.
Right? I drive a hybrid. Totally. My hybrid does not even have a name, though. It is not a character in a TV show. Anyway, so back to the actual interview before Dawn is like, I'm turning this off, you guys. This is no longer about the SCA at all. So a question I would love to ask you, you did refer to this a little bit, but I'd love to hear you dive in a little bit more. We have all had a lot of support during our reigns and have supported a lot of reigns. I think all three of us have been in that support role many times. Who are some of the people you've leaned on the most to make sure your reigns were successful?
So Gillian immediately comes to mind. We didn't ask her our first reign as Prince and Princess to be our head of court because she just stepped down as princess, and we didn't really get that Gillian wouldn't care. She's one of those people who just works and works, has the most amazing, has to be busy work ethic I've ever seen. I don't have that. I need my downtime. So I just assumed, well, I mean, we'll ask someone else. And we had someone who kind of did the job, but wasn't really great. And then when we won our first crown, we're like, hey, Gillian, do you think you'd be willing to be our head of court? And we have never gone back. Like every single reign, it's just, she is super organized, always there. She will be, even if she's the only person at an event, she will attend the whole time. Like she will fill those shoes if she doesn't have anyone to delegate to, and just, she'll be just amazing and pleasant to be around. She's just a wonderful person. And her husband, Leotolf, takes care of all the infrastructure and is amazingly helpful. And also our friends Fergus and Sylvie. I don't know if you've met them. They are the most amazing people. And if you ever have the means of meeting them, they have reigned as Prince and Princess of Sinagua.
Okay.
Sadly, they are now moving across the country, and I'm very, very sad. No, they're moving to North Carolina, I believe, and give them back to us.
Well, Leotolf and Gillian, they're going to retire eventually. Dawn, we should probably send materials to them as well. We're starting a new service where we send information about good towns in Ontario to retire to, because Duke Paul moved up here. And so we figure if we can get enough people to kind of start coming up for events, and they start looking for property, and and really, eventually,
she acts like we're going to have to work for this, but it's already happening.
It's already happening. But we should start like maybe actively recruiting the ones that are really organized and really, that we feel would be a good fit, who are obnoxious enough and don't like following a lot of rules, but if they do it in a nice way, the people you want in the SCA. So Ontario would be happy to have you.
Yeah, definitely Leotolf and Gillian, and also Fergus and Sylvie. But
but they're going a different direction. So yeah.
The other person
don't like the rain in the dark.
The other person who was invaluable was my best friend Mina, because I'm a very emotional person, and just having her there to just back me up and just be someone I could go cry and be a crazy person and just be like, everything is horrible. Okay, I'm fine. Everything's actually great. I just needed to get that out of my system. Like having a best friend who you can just be catty with and say the things that you really, really shouldn't say in public because it's not nice, and you're not just your friend's queen, you're everybody's queen, so you have to be nice to everybody, even if you're having a catty moment, just to be able to have that person to be like, these people who I love are driving me crazy, and here's why.
Do you also like she's the kind of person that if I were close with her, it would be so liberating because she's so impeccably coiffed all the time. She has like the fiercest eyebrows. Everything about her is just always like very like on point. I would just be able to relax. I'd be like, I can't possibly do as well as she does. So I'm just gonna like lean into my bog witch identity and just be super happy she can represent all that is organized and good in one's personal appearance.
It's like standing next to a supermodel all the
Yeah.
time. Like,
Yeah.
I went to an Estrella as queen, and people were talking to her and like not noticing that I was standing there with the crown of the West on my head. I'm like, fine, I get it.
It's fine. It's
I
fine.
get it. She's amazing. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, knights aren't the only ones who can learn humility.
So it's a little humbling to be next to her. She's gorgeous. And, a wonderful person. So
Awesome. Oh, where are we? We've wandered on and off this script so much.
I'm like, what's the script for? I don't know.
Well, so normally Joel would ask something now, Dawn. Would you like to do that?
I'm trying to, if you would stop it already.
I'm just stepping on your lines.
Okay. I'm not even looking at the script. So I noticed that you were wearing a green belt in the proposal. Is that indicative of you being a student to someone, or is that just a cool color belt?
I'm just obsessed with green. It's my favorite color.
Excellent.
I do some art, but mostly not in the SCA, just because it's hard for me to motivate to do art at all. I do metal work. So I've done 2 or 3 coronets. Like the one I'm wearing now is something I made myself, but I haven't done a lot of SCA art, so I haven't put myself out there enough to actually have someone be like, hey, you, let's teach you some stuff and get you on the path. So
do you think that might be a place you want to go in the future?
Maybe. I know that I would like to go further into medieval art. I love pilgrim badges, and I'd love to get into casting them, and I've gotten like some of the stuff to start and books about them, but I haven't actually gotten to the actual making a mold, making a pilgrim badge section of it, but I really enjoy that.
We have a lot of people in Ontario who are really into that. I'm just putting that out there.
Because no other kingdom has people who do that.
No. No. I'm just saying it's a perk of living up here. One that I've never availed myself of, but you could definitely consider it. I don't know. You should come up for, do you guys come up for Sport of Kings? Have you in the past?
We have never been to a Sport of Kings. It's one of those, like, we'd love to do it at some point in time. It's never actually happened. Like, I think at one point, Mark was asked to teach, and then we had a scheduling conflict or something. But yeah, it's one of those bucket list items.
Very cool.
My sister Mark around the country to teach is really fun because, I get to travel, and he gets to talk about the thing he loves the most, which is fighting.
Well, I can tell you, if you don't plan on putting on armor at Sport of Kings, it's a fabulous event too. You just get to sit around and do nothing.
We have nacho night.
Nothing. Pizza night. We had nacho night. We had sit around and watch other people fight and enjoy the flush toilets on site.
It's just, hanging out with like the awesome people and, wearing fun clothes.
Yeah. fancy dress cocktail party.
Uh-huh.
That's all it is, with swords.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
So what is your favorite event to go to? What is your number one?
West Ontario. West Ontario is magical because it's so out there and like you're close to the ocean, but you're in that valley where you're really just isolated and just the stars above and the culture. Because the West and Ontario have very similar ideas of culture. It's a friendly war, and I love Penzic, but going there and seeing how much they cared about winning, I was just like,
Yeah.
what? Like, why do we care? Points? Actually keeping track of, I'm so used to going to West Ontario where we don't care who wins. We're just having fun. It's a fun game. Oh, do you have, more soldiers than us? Here, take some of our, our army so everything will be equal. Like, it's so just everyone's there to enjoy themselves. It's not about who's going to win. It's about, hey, we all love doing this medieval thing. Let's optimize it so everyone has fun. And love fighting in it, love hanging out there. It's a magical site. And just, I've had so many good experiences. I love West Ontario.
Awesome. And we call it Ontario West, by the way.
I'm Westie, so I have to.
We just had this conversation with Isabel. She was calling it Ontario Westward. I'm like, you know what they call it in the West, don't you? They call it Ontario West. They call it West Ontario.
It's West Ontario.
I love it.
What event is on your bucket list?
Canterbury Fair, I believe is what it's called. There's
I would love to go to that.
Yeah. I had it described to me, and I was just, you get to have your events at castles. There's a castle. Roni Festival used to be on our bucket list, but when Sir Eva was knighted, we went to Roni Festival for her knighting, so we got to enjoy that with her household. So like we had a place to land and people taking care of us, and it was just the best way to do that. And we got to see amazing knighting of an amazing human. So it's just rad event. But yeah, I would really love to do Canterbury Fair. And yeah.
I know we need to start a list and tell these events like, hey, did you know this many people have your event on their bucket list? We were talking with Isabel too about scholarships, like having a scholarship or a grant fund that people could fundraise for, so that if people have a dream that they want to do to kind of fulfill something really important to them in the SCA, that they could apply for funds for that. And I'm still like, I'm ruminating that a lot because of some of these iconic events could be that for somebody. It could be that they want to go and present at a big symposium or something that happens in conjunction with something like this. But I'm still thinking about it, like, how could that actually happen, so we can live vicariously through them.
Yeah. I get to cheat because, Mark is a very good fighter and he does something that is very unique. So he gets invited to teach in a lot of places. So we have gotten, that's how we got so tight with Eva and Felix, was they invited us to a tournament and for Mark to go teach.
Nice.
So we've gotten to go to a lot of really cool events because we were traveling because Mark was teaching.
Yep. That's very cool.
He's been doing like a weekly, maybe even more than weekly teaching session online on the practice thing. What have you been doing during COVID to kind of keep your interest in the SCA? And nothing is totally a fine answer.
Honestly, I struggle with online SCA because without being face to face with people, I feel like a lot of context is missing and a lot of cattiness tends to happen, and like you're not seeing the person, you're not understanding the tone, and sometimes the worst gets assumed, and it just ends up being really catty and just really dramatic. And it's been hard for me to do anything but support Mark while he does what he's been doing. So that's pretty much how I've been keeping in touch with the SCA. Is I will watch when my husband's on a show. I will do what I can to make sure that he has what he needs if he's working on a project. I'll watch when my friends are on shows so that I can support them. And that's pretty much what I've been doing.
And that to me is the quintessential consort thing, is to do that. And I think that's a really valid and wonderful role.
I love it.
So
it seems weird, but I love being able to support him because I think he's amazing and I think what he does is amazing, and it makes him so happy to be able to do it, and so that makes me happy.
So that reminds me of something, which is that the SCA has changed a lot, and we now have inspirational equality, for example, that allows people to fight for their partner, irrespective of that partner's legal or assigned gender at birth. That people can fight for a same-sex partner. They can fight for somebody who doesn't conform with their gender identity that's forced upon them. So that's one of many ways that we've kind of increased equity and access to the SCA. And I always love to hear people talk about the role of their own privilege and how they wear their privilege in the SCA, and what do you think you are doing or can do or have done to make the SCA more equitable, to open up those doors to people, or to identify issues that have been part of the culture that are needing to change?
One of the things that I have done is at a point where a lot of ugliness towards women was coming up, I decided that to put myself out there, which is really hard for me. I'm, again, introvert, shy. The amount of talking I'm doing here is a testament to how comfortable you both make me feel. So I actually ended up putting together, with the help of some friends, a tournament. I actually picked Araya's brain a lot, and she helped me with the promotion part of it. Helga, sorry.
We know.
I with her at the same law office, so it's all over. So I put together a tournament and had all the funds that we raised go to V-Day, which is a charity that helps women who are the victims of assault. And it also does things like it has educational programs to try and stop the mentality that hurts women. So that was one of the things where I was like, I have a little bit of notoriety because I've reigned, and I'm going to use it to try and do this thing. So I ran it for 2 years. The second year I ran it, there were so many scheduling issues, and it was so hard to work out. And going to the event, we found out that Obadiah had passed away. So it was just like, oh, this is gonna be a rough day. And I haven't had the oomph to get it going again after that. But I ran it for 2 years to try and use what privilege I had to try and help. So
yeah,
that's what
that was a rough year.
A really rough year.
But I have to say, you made the comment about making you feel comfortable. And when I came down for Obadiah's memorial, which could have been incredibly awkward for me for a lot of reasons, you and Mark were so lovely to me. And I'm going to start crying now. The SCA can function as a really big family, but that can be pretty fraught at times too, with all of the same types of issues that families can have. And you guys really didn't know me, and you were really, really warm to me, and I felt really awkward, and you guys did not make me feel awkward. So
because you are one of those people who when I first met you, you did the Sinagwan swan call. And I was like, this person, I like this person a lot. I'm going to be socially awkward and weird in her general direction, but I like her a lot.
Let's be clear, I'm the only person who does the Sinagwan swan. Sorry, now I'm crying and laughing at the same time, and it's making me like really, I get very rosy when I cry. So that's really funny. Well, and for anyone who's wondering, who's listening from the West, those corduroy Sinagwan cloaks were way too long for me, like a good 6 inches too long. I'm really short. And I got inside of that cloak and I would kind of flap the wings around and make a sound that isn't very pretty to pretend to be a swan. Because I have no sense of decorum or grace, and thought it was really funny. And
to be
still
fair,
do.
As someone who was at my first big event as queen, with a spotlight on me, to have the crown princess of the kingdom I was in do that just really made things much better. Like,
Okay, all right.
it was so delightful to be like, okay, don't need to be this high strung. We're having fun here. This is a game.
That's awesome. Well, that is a good, I do appreciate the effort of running that tournament. You know, and I think sometimes things have their time and then we move on, but knowing that you're a champion of that, that's really important. And, you know, and that it sounds like if that opportunity came up again to champion that cause, that would be important to you, and that you're an ally for people who have concerns about that. So sometimes we just need to make sure people know that they have a person who's willing to use their privilege to take risks and do things that will raise awareness, and that's important too. So so one of the things, so we're coming up to the end of the interview, and I want to make sure that we ask you what keeps you in the SCA, what continues to inspire you. You know, you've been queen, you've been princess, you've had these wonderful opportunities. What do you continue to strive for? Like, what would keep you going?
So I feel like this has got to be the most cliche answer ever. It is, of course, at least partially the people.
I mean, it is the most common answer. That doesn't make you common.
I have a family that is not very supportive. I found family is very important to me, and the family I've found in the SCA is the best family I have ever had. The friendships I've made in the SCA have been deeper and more important to me than any I've ever had. The other thing that keeps me in the SCA is that because our relationship started very connected to the SCA, the SCA is my love story. It's me and my husband's happily ever after. It's our fairy tale. And so we keep having these fairy tale experiences in our relationship in the SCA, even though at this point I've been in for 11 years, 12 years, somewhere around there. And you know, we've been married for almost 6 years, but it's still our fairy tale. So we always get to, like, I get to go to events and there's my handsome knight, and this is our wonderful world. And so yeah, it's our romance, it's our love story. Which you can tell by a lot of the pictures I selected.
We love it. Everybody picks different pictures, you know, but some people, you know, their SCA story isn't connected to the person they reigned with. You know, it's very much separate from that. And it is interesting. And I think a great picture that we paint as royal consorts of how different those relationships are. That some people reign with their friends, some people have reigned with people they're not really friends with anymore. You know, some people reign with their spouses. It's so different. And that's part of when we talk about the dream, to be a cliche also, I guess, that the dream is that you get to do what is most meaningful to you, you know, and that's pretty cool. And it is sweet to see you and Mark, that those of us who are old, crusty married people, to see you guys. It's adorable. So just keep doing that.
Every once in a while we feel like old, crusty married people. We're in our 40s.
Oh.
But our relationship is one of those things where it feels like we've been together forever, but it always also feels really new. Like, we've been married for 6 years. That's insane. That can't be possible because like this is brand new, but also this has always been.
I don't think that's going to change for you. My husband and I are coming up in a few days on 18 years of marriage, 21 years together this year. And our first child is turning 18 this year. Agner's godson. And
it's not possible.
It's mind blowing because it doesn't feel like we're that old. It still feels, it's weird.
New. Yeah.
I think we're gonna be hilarious in the retirement communities and old folks homes. They're gonna be like
the interesting ones.
We're not even sure what to do with these people. We don't know what kind of programming to offer them. They want to be tattooed and make felt and we don't know what to do.
It is such an interesting combination because both me and my husband are very tattooed and like also kind of like our personas in the SCA are a little bit straight-laced. Like, I'm a bit of a goody two shoes. I acknowledge it, but like I'm covered in tattoos and piercings, but I like following the rules and being nice. And just
all good. I love it.
My mom was very much not a tattoo person, and she used to meet my friends and come away and say things like, "Dawn, that was such a nice person. That looks so criminal." It was like, come on.
My grandmother had very, very strong opinions about tattoos and piercings. When I was like still living with her and I was about 22, I went and got my nose pierced because I'm 22. I'm a grown up. I'm allowed to do what I want with my own face. And she got so angry with me for it. Like, oh, I'm going to kick you out. Like, you're not going to kick me out. I love you. You need me in the house to help you out. You're not going to kick me out. But when I started dating Mark, her first question to me was, what does he think about that thing in your nose? He loves it. Damn it. I was hoping he'd hate it and you'd take it out. Nope.
No. I mean, it's pretty right up front, right? Like, that's not the way it works.
Nope.
It's not like we don't need to talk about places he wouldn't know you were pierced until later, but even then.
Yeah, no, just, and honestly, even if he'd hated it, that's not how our relationship works.
Yeah.
So like, you wouldn't tell me to change it.
Yeah. That's funny. My husband is very much the same way, but my son did ask us kind of point blank yesterday, why are you guys married anyway? Because we're so different. We're very different people. But James just kind of looked at him and was like, Niles, your mom and I are very different in a lot of ways, but the things that really matter were the same.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we believe in and the way we treat people and that sort of thing. He's like, the things that really, really matter, our values we're the same, and it is interesting to think about that because, what makes a relationship last is not having necessarily the same interests, right?
Yeah.
Or the same piercings or the same, whatever. Yeah. So, well, that's lovely. And so maybe in 20 years or 5 years, whatever the next pandemic is, and we're interviewing you again, you can give us an update.
I'm sure it'll be just as gross.
Yeah, just as squishy. I love it. Well, before I draw to our customary close, Dawn, do you have any other questions for our fair guest?
I threw the script away, so I
want pretty much. It's all good. You don't have to. I'm just saying, if you would like to, inspired by your own intellect, ask anything.
Oh, that's so. I'm on the spot. So Walker has a question. Is that a real fox fur you have around your lovely neck?
It is. when I first started the SEA, I did a lot of hunting because there were some people who had them, and I just thought they were so beautiful. And so, yeah, I have two of them that I got because topping an outfit with them makes it just look more regal. Like,
Yeah.
they're a little weird though. Like, there's a fox face right here, and that's occasionally, when I think about it, kind of gross.
It would be weirder if it was a fox fur with some other animal's face on it, though.
That's true. Although that would be fun.
It could be something to think about.
Pictures in taxidermy. You could get a laurel in that.
You could.
You probably could. And how is your cat not attacking it?
I don't know. It's considering I'm waiting for him to attack me. We just grooming? Is that what we're doing?
He's so well behaved. My cat would be licking the fur, and yeah. We have to hide all the fur from this house.
A little bit far away from him for him to do it. He is named after a demon for a reason. It took us a really long time to figure out what we wanted to name him. And while we were working on it, his operating title was Sharkface. Because he's very bitey. He has discovered that he can, if he jumps up against the downstairs office door hard enough, he can pop it open. So he has started popping it open while Mark's teaching classes, because Mark is a high school teacher. And so he's just like, no, you don't get to teach class. You have to pay attention to me. So he's charming all of Mark's students, but Mark has to take a break from teaching to pick the cat up. Cat out of the room.
That's perfect.
We live in very strange times.
We do. So normally, as we draw to a close, we like to replicate the practice of the great gift basket exchange that occurs in grand courts where everybody trades stuff. But we are going to give you a virtual gift basket that has anything in it that we could possibly want to give you. Because it's not real and we're not going to really give it to you. So we can do whatever we want. So normally my people would ask your people a few questions to make sure that we filled your basket with things that you would actually enjoy. So the questions are dark or milk chocolate?
Dark.
Dark, okay. Red or white wine?
White.
White. And puppies or kittens? I mean, I'm not assuming. Okay, kittens. So your basket has no handles because, as everyone knows, baskets with handles are the devil and are hard to pack in your car. So we're giving you some kind of virtual vessel that does not have handles on it. And maybe in your case, it looks like an Impala. It's as good a container as any, right?
Yeah.
So, and so we're going to get you some lovely dark chocolate from the Pacific Northwest. There are many chocolatiers up here because what you need to get through a long, dark, rainy winter is chocolate.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And it is always depressing around Easter because there's a lot of chocolate around, but it's all milk chocolate, because on the hierarchy of chocolate holidays, Easter is definitely the milk chocolate holiday. So
that is cool.
So,
which, when you're a mom and there's lots of candy in the house and it's all milk chocolate, it's kind of a good thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's true. Good point, Dawn. Good point.
I'll take the milk chocolate if it's what's there. It's just, I'd rather have the dark.
If it has hazelnuts in it, I will totally eat that. That's a whole different matter.
Yeah.
Put hazelnuts in anything. Okay, so we're gonna get you some wonderful dark chocolates, and we'll get you just enough that you can keep it to yourself, because you can tell Mark, this is for me. I didn't get enough to share with you. Seems legit. White wines, I don't drink a lot of white wines, but I think what I can give you is like a case of my favorite $12 a bottle Prosecco. Because to me, it's white. And it gets you drunk faster than almost anything. It's astounding.
I am not a heavy drinker, but when I drink, I like those sweet wines and things like that. I'm a girly drunk.
There's something about Prosecco too. Like, I know they say the bubbles go to your head, but it's really crazy, like relatively small amount can, anyway. So a case of it though, so you have enough to share with, you can have open a new bottle every time you see a new friend when the pandemic is over, and you don't have to worry like, oh, we're not going to drink this whole bottle, so I don't want to open a bottle of something bubbly. You're going to drink the whole bottle and you're going to love it. And you're going to have a separate one for each person. And then we're not going to give you cats because you shouldn't give animals as gifts, but we're going to let you roll around with a litter of kittens in a room without anything on that will snag. And
special gift to Crawley, I will hand make some felted catnip balls for him.
He will destroy them with joy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance Dawn could actually, or Ashaxi could actually do that. So maybe if you came up for a Sport of Kings, we could arrange for some cat toys to go home with you. But anyway, and then I think probably what I would also put in there is tickets to an event that you want to go to for you, independent of what Mark wants to do, where you get to pick the event you're going for you. He can bring his armor if he wants, but it's really not about him. It's about you. And if that event happens to be really close to some kind of a con where your favorite actors will be showing up, even better. Like that to me seems like a perfect trip for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we would give you the ability to travel to such a thing, not on a teacher's salary. So, you know.
To be fair, I do like to double up those things. Oh, I'd love to go to Disneyland and experience the, new Star Wars land. But also there's a Lucifer convention that weekend. So I'll just
perfect
all together.
There's Lucifer conventions.
Oh my.
I have in fact also met Tom Ellis. I think With the Devil to Faith by George Michael. So,
I love it. I mean, you can just go. We'll live vicariously through you. Yep. That's awesome. So that would be great in the basket so that you can go and do whatever you want. And there'll be some really good sunscreen in there too, because you're a redhead. So
as it turns out, no sunburns for me.
Yeah. So anything you want to add, Dawn?
Just the cat toys.
Just the cat. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
That's a kingly gift. Let's be honest.
All right. Well, it has been so wonderful talking with you, and for being someone really shy, you hide it well. We feel so fortunate to have gotten this much time with you. We're up on an hour and a half now.
Wow.
I know.
Clearly that tells you something, because I didn't realize we'd been talking that long.
It's fabulous, and we would love to have you come up to Ontier sometime. Maybe you can make it up for a Sport of Kings or something. That would be wonderful. Otherwise, I might have to go down to Ontier Westmore.
Wah wah
wah wah. It's like a 14-hour drive. Anyway, so but it would be lovely to see you in person and get to be awkward with you again.
Yay,
so yes. So and thanks, Dawn, again for stunt hosting. Really appreciate that. And next week, please join us for our interview with Ingrid Rifkin of the Outlands, who will be doing an interview with us and feels similarly shy and awkward. So I think we'll be on a roll here.
Phoebe is one of my spirit animals.
Okay, you'll have to tune in and see her next week on the Sisters Interview Network. Please watch for the event, and thanks everybody for signing in. As Joel would say, please continue to wear your mask, renew your SCA membership, believe in science, get a vaccine if you can. Be kind to each
other. And I'm going to add, support the officers and the royalty that are working so hard right now.
Yeah.
Try to construct a way for us to re-enter the SCA.
That's right. That's right. Be supportive.
Be supportive. Don't be a dick. That's all I have to say about that.
All right. Fair enough. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.